Okay, I think we seem to have started slowing down. People seem to have joined. So we're going to kick off, and obviously people can continue to join throughout the session. A big welcome to everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's GovTech Connect webinar on Bootcamp 1, which focuses on Northern Europe. A bit of an overview of the agenda for today. So first of all, to introduce myself. So my name's Surika. I'm a program manager at Public, which is one of the members of the GovTech Connect consortia. And the purpose of today's session is to present the GovTech Connect pilot project and the role that the bootcamps are playing, specifically running through Bootcamp 1. So we're going to introduce the project. Myself and my colleague are then going to introduce the bootcamp, which focuses, as I said, on Northern Europe and achieving net zero. And then we're going to have an open question period, so you can send questions in through the Q&A function throughout the session. And we've also had a few people send questions in ahead of time through the jot form on the website. So we'll be making sure to address those as well. So if we can kick off with the slides. So next one, please. So why are we running this program and who are we? So we are a consortia. So GovTech Connect is built up of 4 companies who are all experts in our fields. Leading the consortia is Untitled Consulting, which is an Italian-based consultancy that specializes in public sector life cycle support. And their expertise lies specifically in the digitization and innovation support for the public sector. Next, we have Public, which myself and my colleagues are representatives of, which is a German-UK company that provides technology and consulting services to public sector organizations. Our goal is to help government institutions transform their services and improve the lives of citizens through the use of digital technology. Now, our speciality in this project is the work that we do with GovTech startups, which is our kind of flagship offering and what we've been doing for the past several years. We are experts in running agile, innovative startup programs, both with government and with startups, and specifically accelerators and bootcamps, where we support companies to launch and scale their businesses. We then have Politecnico di Milano, which is a highly esteemed Italian research institution and renowned university, particularly in the field of design. So within their department, they undertake a range of activities, of projects and research on citizen engagement, service design, and innovation in the public sector. And then finally, we have a partner, Lisbon Council, which is a think tank with a wealth of experience in digitalization and digital transformation. They are actively engaged in a variety of research projects at the moment and supporting the European Commission and other public sector organizations in promoting innovation in government. So as a group, we know GovTech inside out, and we are really excited to share our thoughts and our learnings with all of you. Moving on to the next slide, just looking a little bit about what we offer as a group through the overall project and then also through the bootcamp. So as I've mentioned, the GovTech Connect project has a range of areas. So we have research functions, bootcamp functions, design, citizen engagement. And so through these, we're providing opportunities for people to access forensic insight apologies and policy recommendations, to participate in networking events. Both will be online and in person, to receive training on design thinking methodology and citizen engagement approaches. And that'll happen both through the bootcamps and then also through separate sections of the project. What we're talking about today, the 4 bootcamps, which will be run over 2 years, which are focusing specifically on startups and SMEs. And all of this is contained under our Join Up community and our communication channels. So Join Up, we have a slide on it later, is where we basically will be hosting all of the information about the wider project. And we'll also be using our social media channels to disseminate all of this. In terms of the benefits of the program in general, so as SMEs, which I know we have a great attendance of SMEs and startups here, it's joining a community of innovators alongside relevant players across Europe, including specifically public sector organizations. So really great access to that area. Developing citizen-centric services based on new methodologies of engagement, and also just improving business capabilities and boosting innovation. And in terms of benefits to the public sector, so it's a really good opportunity for the many public sector organizations that we've already engaged with to connect with startups and SMEs in Europe that are offering innovative solutions, to learn from best practices in other public administrations across Europe, and also to catalyze the twin digital and green transition objectives, which we'll touch on a little bit more. So a little bit of a timeline of what we've been doing over the past while. So we kicked off this project in January, and we've been working very hard up until this point. And so we're very excited to actually be able to share it with you all. So throughout January to March, we launched our online community. We conducted initial research, which would inform the boot camps and following activities. As part of this, we released a survey for startups, which some of you may have filled out, where you were able to indicate what kind of topics you might be interested in learning as part of the boot camp, because we want to make sure the content's really led by the needs of startups and SMEs. And now we are in April, and so we have launched the open call for Bootcamp 1 and 2, and our Bootcamp 1 will be kicking off in June, with Bootcamp 2 then kicking off later on in the year in September. And then next year we'll have Bootcamp 3 and 4, which will happen as well as a high-level GovTech event and conference, which will be the summation of a lot of the work that's going to be happening over the next 2 years. So final thing on our introduction is just our online community. So as I mentioned already, JoinUp is a place that you can access information about the project and the different things that are happening. I believe links are being shared in the chat, which people should be able to access, as well as you should be able to follow people on LinkedIn and Twitter to learn more about the activities of the bootcamps. And then finally, the bootcamp website, which is specifically for the application period for the bootcamp, is where you'll be able to access copies of this recording and other important information for applying. So that's an introduction to the general project. I'm now going to bring you a little bit more in depth into the boot camps, at which point my colleague will then take over to go through the specifically Northern Europe focus. But just to give a little intro to this opportunity. So as I said, our consortium is experts in this area. Across all of us, we've been working in the GovTech ecosystem since 2017, and we've supported over 200 startups across Europe, from health to social care to defense to city administration, in building partnerships with government and scaling in the public sector. And we think this is a really exciting time to be operating in this market. Across Europe, GovTech is being widely recognized as an important sector, with several policies at the European level being promoted, specifically supporting the adoption of GovTech solutions. And you can see we've listed some on the side here, such as the Interoperable Europe Act, the proposal for the Digital Identity Framework, and we'll talk a little bit more about the GovTech Incubator and GovTech Connect, which we are now all involved in. A number of factors has influenced this move towards GovTech, which and move to digital services as a whole. This includes, of course, COVID-19, which saw us all move online, new expectations from citizens about how much engagement they want in their services, and a new focus on digitalization from the EU recovery funds, which has been really important and really moved this. As I mentioned, we've been working in this for quite a while, and so we've been able to support some really fantastic GovTech companies that have driven forward, change thinking and change mindsets in government. And we have some of those listed at the bottom of the slides. We have Element, which is the official open source messaging service that's now the new standard for German armed forces. We've Status Pay, which powers the digital payment system for Italian public administration, and also Unblur, which is an emergency service Spanish company, which recently secured a 10-year contract with the London Fire Brigade to provide an incident command operating system. So just a really great example of different European companies working across the regions to deliver services. So we're really excited to now see this new wave of companies come through the program. The bootcamp programs are startup training programs. So they provide selected startups with upskilling and networking opportunities that will help you to build, deploy, and scale new technology solutions that can really meet key public sector challenges. It's really important to note that this is one of the first EU-wide GovTech startup programs, and we are building on the successful experiences of local and national interventions to provide an international platform to support the adoption of new GovTech solutions across Europe. So it's just so exciting, and we're so excited and grateful to be part of that program and for you guys to join us. The main objectives of the bootcamps, which we have here, is number one, to drive, an integrated GovTech market across Europe. So as I've mentioned, we've seen fantastic examples of collaboration on local and national scale. However, the number of companies and solutions that have been able to scale their impact across borders can be somewhat limited. And so we're going to bring together startups, public administration, investors from different countries through the bootcamps, but also on their initiatives of the project project to drive international dialogue and enable the shaping of best practices and case studies to support the creation of solutions to be reused across countries. Apologies. This objective will be pursued with other EU initiatives that I've seen in previous slides, such as the GovTech Incubator, which is going to be running in parallel to this initiative. The second objective we have here is to support the EU ambition to accelerate the ongoing digital transformation of services, but also specifically the green transition. So as part of the bootcamp, working with GovTech, SMEs and startups will gain the skills and the tools to work with governments and match them with public administrations to ensure that their solutions can drive impact in these two macro areas of, public sector digital innovation, but also the green transition of services. And given that this is the Northern Bootcamp, which is focusing on achieving net zero, there's even greater synergies there, which is great to see. And then finally, our third objective is to, leverage the latest service design methods to promote collaboration between startups and citizens to co-design services that are really citizen-centric and fit for our digital age. And I will say that we've already done a lot of thinking about preparing these to ensure that they are, as engaged as possible. But there will be a large focus in the bootcamps is really citizen engagement and designing your solutions to fit the needs of the people who use them best. So moving on, just to give a little bit of an overview of the timeline, and then we'll go into more of the specifics for this one. We will be delivering 4 regional programs across Europe in the next 2 years. The first 2 boot camps are focused on Northern Europe and Southern Europe, and the one we're discussing today is obviously Northern Europe. And that'll be, as you said, we're kicking off now with open calls. Selection for both boot camps will be happening in May, with boot camp 1 kicking off in June and boot camp 2 kicking off in September. The industries of focus are different. However, my colleague will go through the different requirements for the different regions. But it's worth saying that this year it is focusing on achieving net zero and digitizing public services. And next year we'll be focusing on health tech and then smart cities for the final 2 boot camps. And so with that being said, just to kind of summarize everything I've touched over, the bootcamp is immersive training experiences where you can work with, government, co-develop with citizens and learn about innovative business models and sources of funding. It's a challenge-based model, which is designed to encourage new approaches to achieve EU priorities. So as you've all seen the challenge statements that are released on the website and that we'll be going through, you'll apply against these. There's 4 regional programs as mentioned, and really the ultimate aim of this is to convene startups, citizens, public sector actors and buyers through a final pitch day event, which is going to happen where I'll give an opportunity for startups to demonstrate and deliver what they've learned, but really there's multiple learning opportunities across every aspect of it. So thank you all for listening to our intro. I'm now going to hand to my colleague, Sophia, who's going to run through the specific challenges for Northern Europe.
Thank you so much, Surka. And that's right. We're going to be focused on Northern Europe for today. And the overarching theme for the bootcamp is achieving net zero and how we can support the green transition of services in the Nordic and Baltic region. So within this context, we have put together 3 different challenges that startups can apply to. It's important to note that when we're talking about the Nordic and Baltic region, we're talking mainly about a set of countries. And in this case, it's Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway, and Sweden. So companies that we aim to target should have an office in these countries. If you don't have an office in any of these countries, but you still want to target the Nordic and Baltic region for other purposes or for other objectives of your company's expansion, we'll be able to consider your application too, but we'll be given priority to companies that have been operating and that have a base in the countries outlined in the slide. Talking specifically about the different areas that we'll be addressing in the bootcamp, we're going to be looking at open sustainability data. We're going to be also looking at energy efficient buildings and also sustainable tourism. The bootcamp will be tailored to the different particularities of the region and also to the extent that it's possible to the different particularities of net zero and the specific challenges that we are addressing. So to deep dive a little bit onto the first challenge, when we're talking about open sustainability data, what we're looking for in companies is technologies that can promote transparency about sustainability outcomes in government projects. And we'll give you a little bit of a reasoning after this slide onto why we have chosen this challenge and the different solutions that we aim to involve in the program. On a second note, when we're looking at energy efficient buildings, we're looking for technologies that can improve energy efficiency, especially in public buildings. And when we talk about public buildings, it's buildings that are owned by the public sector. And thirdly, we're talking about sustainable tourism. We're looking for technologies that can enhance sustainable tourism and reduce the environmental impact of tourism itself. So open sustainability data, why have we chosen this challenge? Why is it relevant for the region and why is it relevant for the program? As I mentioned before, we're looking to support governments in identifying solutions that can promote their transparency and help them open up about their sustainability outcomes in government projects. And these can range from identifying suppliers to monitoring performance, reporting, or benchmarking. Why is this relevant for the region? It's important to note that when we look at the Nordic Baltic region, sustainability is often understood as something that goes way beyond just environmental or social economic spheres. Sustainability is this overarching concept that enables different kind of themes that are around government or the social, economic, and environmental spheres to come together. So when we talk about sustainable project outcomes in government, this also includes ensuring that when we set up those projects, the targets and the objectives are sustainable from the procurement stage. So in terms of some of the development that has been happening in these fields over the last few years, the European Commission has actually developed the EU Green Public Procurement Criteria. And there's also organizations like the Open Contracting Partnership that are monitoring progress in terms of sustainable procurement from across the world. There's been really great pioneers in the region that have been doing this. Stockholm, for example, has been meeting environmental requirements for ICT procurement since 2010, and Lithuania, for example, has been working on green public procurement for a couple of years now, and they aim to be 100% green in their procurement by 2023. Some of the solutions that could perhaps fit within this category may be, for example, AI in natural language processing to scan or aggregate data and even to assess those large volumes of data. Other solutions can range from supply chain integration to data processing and data visualization. And we may even consider cloud-based procurement tools that can help governments analyze their spending information and provide visibility throughout the organization on which stages of the procurement process are more sustainable than others, so to know where to target their efforts. And lastly, some other ideas around this challenge could be around data management, advanced analytics, carbon accounting, contract management, or supplier management to meet sustainable goals. Our second challenge is around energy efficiency. And here we're really looking to support governments to make their buildings better performing, smarter, and more energy efficient. It's important to know that urban areas are highly populated in the Nordic regions and the Baltic regions. They actually house about 85% of the population, and thus a lot of the efforts that have been kind of delivered around carbon net zero and energy efficiency or environmental efforts in general have been concentrated in the buildings and energy areas. There's a clear commitment to reduce emissions in the region as well, but this comes without wanting to reduce economic growth, which is something very particular about the region. So there's this trend around building urban spaces without compromising the benefits of nature, but without also sacrificing that economic growth. There's thus a clear commitment as well to retrofitting. And this is supported also by pacts and policies that have been put forward by the European Commission and the broader European Union community. Some of the example solutions that we may see in this particular challenge may be around automatic monitoring and targeting systems that can gather and collate energy around the consumption of data and basically generating insights on how to make that consumption more efficient. Some computer-based systems can also assist with monitoring, controlling, or optimizing the energy consumption, and these usually comes in the form of different devices. Interfaces can also help the public sector with data visualization tools that can facilitate fault detection, diagnostic, and also decision-making. And then, of course, AI and digital twins generate models for system optimization and data encryption and unique certificates on digital platforms too, given that most of these platforms are digital and we need to ensure that the cybersecurity aspect is well taken care of. The third challenge is around sustainable tourism, as mentioned before. And here we're really looking for solutions that can accelerate the shift to sustainable, responsible, and smart tourism. The region is very well known for aiming to target regenerative tourism, which is tourism that gives back to the local society that is living in the area. So there's been really a great call for greater monitoring of sustainable travel data. The European Travel Commission has developed some indicators, and they're starting to work on this. And the Nordic Council of Ministers in the region has also launched initiatives to track sustainable tourism data over the last couple of years. There's also a really great understanding in the region on how potential SME collaboration can support these type of challenges. So some innovation programs have been launched in small municipalities, and some regions have been actually piloting solutions in small cities with startups and digital SMEs. Examples of solutions that we can be looking at in this theme could be from community platforms that can diversify visitors' experience, highlighting needs or highlighting different features that locals consider relevant so that they can synergize with local needs. We can also be looking at micro-mobility apps that offer car sharing or other innovative options for locals to interact with visitors, and for visitors to turn their visit to that region into more sustainable outcomes. Geographic information systems can also support this theme around displaying different routes with the lowest carbon footprint. We can also be looking at different services such as sustainability as a service in banking. And of course, also whenever the public sector is involved, the supporting decision making can also be facilitated through big data and AI tools that can generate smarter predictions for better decision making and also planning around tourism. So now that we know a little bit about the different areas that we're going to be targeting, likely the next couple of questions come around the application process and eligibility. So I will start saying that we're going to be targeting early stage startups up to Series A, but we'll also consider digital SMEs. And I also want to highlight the fact that we understand that early stage startups may look very different from one company to the other. So we understand that we have to be a little flexible in terms of the format of those companies. So what we want to make really clear is that in order to participate in the program, you do need to have a digital solution that is leveraging some kind of new technology and that has the potential to be deployed in the public sector. So it's fundamental that your solution is digital. In order to make the most of the program, which I will be talking about a little bit more in the next few slides, you would have to have an MVP, or at least a prototype, an early product, given that we're going to be doing some exercises and activities around citizen engagement in order to improve your product. So we really need that base in order to work and to make the most of those activities. Given the kind of activities that we're going to be doing during the program, some of them are going to be directly involving citizens. We ought to look for companies that are citizen facing, or they're looking to embed somehow citizen engagement into their product development cycle. As I mentioned before, given that we're going to be looking at the Northern and Baltic region, like our target is companies that are based in any of the countries outlined in this slide. Companies from other regions will also be considered, but priority will be given to those within the target region, and make sure that if you don't have an office, for example, in any of the regions that we're outlining, make sure that in your application, you're highlighting why you would be interested in participating in a bootcamp for this region. It may be for scaling purposes. It may be because you don't have an office, but you're planning to do so. It may be because of different collaboration opportunities that may have arisen that you may be considering. That's all fine, but we just want to understand where companies are coming from and what their different targets and goals are, especially for the program. Ideally as well, companies should be able to address at least one of the challenges of the region. If you don't directly address the challenge, you'll also be considered as long as you are part of the overarching theme. In this case, it would be net zero sustainability or anything that has to do with the environment. In terms of the selection process, well, as you all know, open calls are open at the moment. The selection process will finish, the open call will be closed on May 5th and will be moving on to selection. Applications will be assessed by a jury panel made up of a project team representative, a sectoral expert, and also a citizen engagement lead. And we'll be looking at 4 different criteria. The first one is solution feasibility. And when we're talking about solution feasibility, you can find all of these descriptions on the application guidelines, which the link has been shared on the chat and is also on the GovTech Bootcamp website. We're talking about determining whether the solution is relevant to the challenge and if it's at the right maturity level, and whether if there is a solid plan to further develop and deploy the solution in the public sector. The second criteria is around team skills, and this will assess whether the team has the relevant industry and technical skills and experience to succeed in the relevant market. So this doesn't mean that you have done it before, but have had some kind of experience in the public sector is always valuable for when it comes to assessing the potential of a company. We're also going to be looking at company experience, and this will assess whether the team has successfully delivered similar products or services before. If there's any kind of experience working with clients in government or also the private sector, and if there is experience delivering impact in a relevant sector or industry, linked to the bootcamp, of course. The last criteria is on citizen engagement, and given the structure and the design of the program, we will be assessing whether the team has developed a strong plan for citizen engagement before, and also whether there is some kind of potential to increase the citizen engagement within the bootcamp, and if the team has had any previous experiences that can support this process. As I mentioned before, you can find the selection guidance on the website, and you can find also you will also be able to find the recording for today's call on the website. So what are we really offering in the bootcamp, and what does the learning program look like? We're going to be addressing 4 different challenges that startups come across when they are aiming to work with government. We understand that sometimes for smaller companies, it can be hard to sell to government, especially if you're offering an innovative solution. So the program really aims to teach you how to work with government, how to position your product or service, how to navigate the complex world of procurement. And you'll be receiving expert advice also on how to successfully build your strategy and your pricing model too. We also understand that for citizen-facing solutions, sometimes it can be hard to involve citizens and to get that very much needed feedback. So we're going to be offering the possibility to co-design your solution with a pool of citizens. This will allow you to explore key methods for co-designing and developing user-centered solutions alongside citizens, and you'll be also doing this alongside Politecnico di Milano's experience, and you'll be supported by their amazing experts, which have been doing this for very long. So you'll be receiving a toolkit and a methodology and some workshops and guidance on how to best gather these feedback and implement it and then reflect on it. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is also funding routes. We understand that these can be really complex, especially when you're looking to grow. So we're going to be involving different stakeholders around funding opportunities so that you can gain the knowledge, the skills, and the tools to master the process of accessing funding and raising investments in the GovTech sector specifically. And you'll be able to hear from and connect as well with GovTech-focused investors. And the last thing that we're going to be doing in the program is showcasing your solution. There are a few opportunities to pitch to government. We understand that. And given that we are developing this pilot project within the European Commission framework, we want to make the most of that, and we want to be able to allow you and give you the space to showcase your solution to investors and buyers and different relevant stakeholders on pitch day, which will happen at the end of the program. This will allow you to receive some buy-in from the relevant stakeholders to deploy and scale your solution if that's your objective. So the program is a 4-week course that will kick off in June. It will be fully online. We'll have weekly live sessions, likely once a week for about 6 hours. And we kindly ask every company to at least involve one team member for 80% of the program. And the reason why we require this is because the program is designed to build on previous sessions. So it's really a journey that you make the most of when you are part of it fully. So we understand that, every company has their own kind of schedules, and we're all very busy, but it's really important for someone to be there at least for 80% of the time. So the program will kick off with an onboarding week, which will happen offline, where you will be able to receive any kind of relevant coursework, schedule, citizen engagement plan, any toolkits, and we'll also be doing a goal setting exercise before the program so that you can understand what you're aiming to get out of it. We will then be moving on week 2, which will be all about an introduction to working with the public sector. And this can range from understanding the public sector market structure to understanding key policy drivers, navigating different routes to market, your positioning and narrative. We'll also touch base on technological compliance and understanding the public sector buyer. And this would be very specific to the region and the theme. And then in terms of citizen engagement, we'll kick off the citizen engagement activities in week 2. We'll be looking at how to solve problems, and this will be an introduction to the different methods and tools for design thinking and citizen engagement that you would be able to implement during the bootcamp. And we'll also be mapping the design thinking and citizen engagement maturity level of your specific solution so that you can make the most of the program. We want everybody to start right where they need to and to set reasonable and realistic goals for the program. So once we have understood how the public sector works, we will then go and look at what the best models for your solution and for your company are, especially when looking at entering the public sector. So we will be touching base on different options for business model innovation, different revenue models, pricing strategies, and also partnership building strategies, especially looking towards procurement. So we will be running through common contracting requirements, different procurement routes, how to build a successful business case, and even how to manage effective contract management. These will be the week where you will actually be implementing also the learnings from the citizen engagement workshop that happened on the previous week. So you'll be able to prepare for citizen engagement feedback. In week 4, we'll be looking at how to grow your company and how to scale your solution. So we'll be looking at different options around investment and fundraising. And this includes investment approaches and fundraising tactics, both in the private and public sector, and different sources of funding also for both sectors. We'll also be giving you some guidance for effective pitches and decks, and we'll also be touching base a little bit on the state of GovTech investment in the region and what the key players are, specifically for the theme and the Nordic and Baltic region. This will be your chance as well to reflect alongside our citizen engagement and design thinking experts on the feedback that you had gathered before from your citizens, and to plan a little bit how to implement the refinement strategy for your solution. After week 4, we move on to focusing on the final showcase of the program. So week 5 will be a quiet week, and it's a mentoring week where you'll be preparing for your pitch. So we'll give you support if needed, including virtual workspaces, mentoring slots, breakout rooms to support you in putting together your final deck and your final pitch, which will happen in week 6. So week 6 will actually be the final pitch week, where you will actually have a chance to pitch your solution to an international audience of public sector stakeholders aligned with the challenges in the region. This includes representatives from the European Commission, also citizens and experts will form a jury panel that will be scoring the different pitches. We'll be highlighting one company out of every bootcamp. And then, of course, after these showcase of solutions, we'll also be giving you space for one-to-one networking with the different stakeholders that have participated in the event. And then this is a brief kind of highlight as well of the citizen engagement component of the bootcamps. This is something quite unique that we're offering within the program. Bootcamps are really experimentation environments where startups can, gain new knowledge, co-create value with citizens and other societal stakeholders. And doing this under a facilitated structure really helps you move forward and feel supported in the process, which is a process that for some companies may be relatively new. So we'll kick off this process with an initial survey in the onboarding week, and then you'll be onboarded on the different toolkits and methods. And during the masterclass, you'll implement those toolkits and methods in a workshop, and then you'll have focus groups to reflect on those, on the feedback that you had gathered. And then we'll also be deploying a final survey to understand the progress that has been made during the program. So some of the different items that you'll come across within the citizen engagement activities are the object design thinking methodology, different methods and tools for design thinking, also the mapping of the maturity level of your design thinking and citizen engagement activities within your company, hands-on activities to experiment, and then, of course, guided focus groups and demo sessions to receive feedback and from direct experimentation. So this is all from our side. We encourage you now to please drop any questions you may have in the Q&A session, in Zoom. I know there's a couple of questions that I'm gonna jump into right now. So first question is, I'm a junior architect and would love to be a part of this, whether in Intellera, public, or in a startup. Who do I email to get involved? We'll be sharing the email on the chat in a few seconds. You can definitely reach out to us, and we can talk to you and see if there's any space for further collaboration. It's really important to just highlight that the target of the bootcamps is to involve startups and companies. So we may have space for you to collaborate in some other ways. We really want to encourage you also to join the Join Up community, where all the materials will be shared, where all workshops and where all events that would happen around and surrounded the program will be kind of shared. So that would likely be the first step as to how to best collaborate with the program, just becoming involved in different activities that the program is offering that are open to the public. But if there's anything specific that you feel you could bring up to the program, we'll drop the email in the chat so that you can reach out to us. When you say, the next question, when you say that companies inside the region will get priority, could you please elaborate about the jury criteria versus the regional priority? Do you only accept applications from outside the region if there is not enough applications inside the region? Thanks in advance. Yes, so one of the criteria that is on the selection process, and that's included in the application guidelines, and it was also shown today, is the fit of the company for the region and the challenge. So the better you fit within the region and the challenge, the better you will be scoring against that criteria, and that would automatically qualify you better to move forward. We understand that sometimes not every company will score highly on those, but they may bring some other value. So this is all really reflected in the criteria. And again, we're aiming to involve a significant number of startups. And as long as we can accommodate any other additional ones that may not be as relevant to the region, we'll do so if possible with the kind of like with the space that we have. If you're a startup that is in a country that isn't part of any of the Northern region countries and want to co-design with citizens, would it be possible to co-design with a pool of citizens that are located in my country, or do these have to be in one of the Nordic countries that are part of the program. Thank you. No, that's all right. We actually, some of the citizen engagement component will likely be very startup dependent. So every company will have their own goals. Every company will have likely their own pool of startups that they want to be co-developing, their own pool of citizens that they want to be co-developing with. So it's more than fine if you have your own set of if you have your own set of citizens that you want to be interacting with, and you want to bring those on board in the program, even if you're not from the region, that's all right. Would you also help from a technological standpoint, for example, how and who to connect with to gain API inside access to government data and processes to connect our solution to? So yeah, within our expertise, will aim to support you in every kind of aspect that you may feel you would need a support on. I think also one of the main goals of the program is for you to be able to map out who the relevant stakeholders are. So we won't be connecting you directly, but we'll be giving you kind of like the knowledge and the mapping of the ecosystem for you to understand who the relevant stakeholders are. And if possible, if there are relevant stakeholders that will be, for example, attending the showcase day, and you want to have a one-on-one chat with them later, we'll be happy to make that happen. But yeah, in whatever sense we can support you, we'll aim to do that. From a technological standpoint, if that's connected to the public sector kind of understanding of the ecosystem. How is the program funded? Well, the program is actually being funded by DG Connect and DGIT, which are two units within the European Commission. So the European Commission has actually powered this pilot project. There's a clear commitment coming from the Commission to move forward the GovTech community in Europe in general, and so they are aiming to test different projects that are involving different levels, different startups with different companies with different sizes and different levels of maturity at different points and alongside different projects. So there's also the GovTech incubator, which is targeting more mature companies, and there's also this GovTech Connect project, which is targeting early stage startups instead. The program is also free of cost for the startups, so it's fully funded by the European Commission. Is everything done remote? Yes, the program is fully virtual for the 4 weeks of the duration of it. Will there be NDAs? Of course, we'll set up, if needed, any kind of supporting documentation that you feel may be needed. This will all be addressed in the onboarding week, and we'll give you guidance on how to best make the best use of the program, and we'll ensure that also all materials are relevant and you have a safe space for your experimentation processes and also for your learning.
We had a couple questions sent in before the session, so it might be worth just going over a few of those. One of the questions was around our flexibility in terms of startup size and stage. We could touch on that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so as long as companies have an early an MVP, a prototype, and as long as that MVP is a digital solution, we are pretty flexible. We understand that early stage startups, look very different sometimes. So what we're really looking for is the startups that can make the most of this program. So they have to be willing to interact with citizens and to iterate their solution. They have to be working on a prototype that they can actually test and experiment with, and it has to have a public sector potential. As long as that's covered, we're more than happy to accommodate different sizes.
Amazing. And then just a follow-on question from that, another question that was asked was around a company that was registered, but they don't actually have an office as of yet, and whether that would be a blocker for them applying for the program.
That would not, as I said before, we understand that different early stage startups may have different contexts, and that's more than fine. We'll be happy to consider companies in those situations. There is also another question that was just added on the Q&A section. which is there any funding provided for the startup as part of the program? No, there's no additional funding. The program itself, it's already funded by the European Commission, and it's involving really high level stakeholders, experts, and we're delivering really high quality training for the startups that will be part of it. So being part of the program is already kind of like the funding, but no. It must be noted, though, that the European Commission is looking at developing projects that can build on these pilot projects. So there may be some pilot opportunities that may come up from having participated in this bootcamp in the future, not just from direct collaboration with different stakeholders that may be involved in the project, but also as kind of like a follow-up pilot project that may be developed by the Commission in the future. So we really want to encourage you, if you're considering getting close to the European Commission, or if you really want to position yourself in the conversation in the ecosystem, right now is the best time to do this. These pilot projects are just kicking off. So if you want to become involved, it's a really great opportunity to, just shine the light in the radar of the European Commission, and to be a part of these activities that are going to be happening, not just across GG Connect, but also DJET, which are two separate branches within the European Commission that are aiming to push SME collaboration around digital services and digital solutions for the public sector. We already have investors, seed, and one paying customer. Is that considered early stage? Yeah. And also, I mean, don't be discouraged by the fact that we're saying early stage. As I said before, if you feel that your solution could benefit from the program, and you already have, some traction in the public sector and some experience with your products, that it's totally fine. And that would also be considered positively. It's relatively early stage. So we're not really, when we're talking about early stage, what we're really looking for is companies that can benefit from the program that are not large scale-ups, that are very far away, perhaps from benefiting from a citizen engagement activity or understanding, how to work with public sector. If you've done that before way too many times, then you probably wouldn't be benefiting too much. If you're just starting your journey in the public sector, then it may be very useful for you to understand, different routes that you could test. Your experience may be really kind of very recent, so you may be able to understand better where your opportunities lie, and where your areas of growth for your company may sit. So that's more than fine. Okay. Any other questions? I feel like we've covered a lot of information. Just a reminder that these slides will be uploaded to JoinUp, and the recording will also be uploaded to JoinUp in due course after we finish the session. And additionally, if you have any further questions around selection process, eligibility, or even the content of the program, you can always reach out to us. I know my colleague dropped an email address on the chat, so you can always reach out to us if anything else comes up that you're not thinking of right now. You will also find the answer to a lot of the questions on the application guidelines, and the link is already also in the chat. And then just highlighting that the JoinUp platform is the website or the main landing page for the whole project, for the whole GovTech project. And this includes the open innovation activities, but also any other activities such as research and design that are happening also within the context of the project. So anything that has to do with the whole project in itself, you can go to JoinUp for any kind of updates. And then the bootcamp website, it's specifically addressing this matter of the bootcamps in itself. So anything that has to do with the training program for startups. You'll also find that link on the JoinUp, but we've also added it in the chat in case it's easier for you to access directly. And then just a reminder that applications close on May 5th, and we'll be releasing results around end of May. All right. So I think we can likely wrap it up here if there are no additional questions. We'll give you 5 minutes back. We really want to appreciate the interaction that you've all shown today. And we really thank you for joining the session. We really encourage you to apply. It's a really great opportunity. The European Commission is offering to startups and digital SMEs. So please feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. But yeah, we look forward to reading your applications very soon, and we wish you all a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much for joining.